All right, welcome back. Episode 7, Orange Ball Podcast. Brendan, Sam, awesome episode today. We're going to talk a little college football to start. A little secret scrimmage going on. A couple of them were broadcast on TV, so not so secret. But we actually have some college basketball scores to talk about, and then a awesome interview at the end with, if you're familiar with Mid-Major Madness on Twitter, talking a bunch of Mountain West hoops with him, some sleeper teams around the country. He's super knowledgeable about all things mid-major basketball, and a great guy to tune into when you want to impress your friends in March, when you know what upsets are going to happen and that kind of thing. So great show going forward, or with the interview later, but let's get into some college football. It was a crazy weekend, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, another weekend. Well, first let me just say this: the so-called greatest day of college football did not disappoint. We had a lot of ranked matchups, obviously, but I believe there was like probably 3 or 4 overtime games and a couple wild finishes. And I mean, let's just get into the elephant in the room. Oregon beats Ohio State, and you were there live in person to witness it.
I was. Honestly, fortunate enough to go to a lot of games at Autzen Stadium, and I'll be honest, I think there was a lot of Ohio State fans that thought, 60,000 people, it's supposed to be loud. That environment would rival probably anywhere in the country, especially last Saturday. It was loud. The crowd was into it. And it definitely affected the game. There was a possession where Ohio State had like 2 false starts, 1 delay a game. Like, the crowd got into it. Obviously, the late slide is what everyone's going to remember, the Will Howard going down. But really, Will Howard played a damn good game. Like, he didn't make many mistakes, and was just trying to get down at the end of the game. But on the Oregon side, Dylan Gabriel probably played the best game of his career, and he's had a long career at different stops, and he's kind of a guy that, last year when he was at Oklahoma, his best game was in the Red River rivalry. This time around, maybe people are kind of a little down on him. He's thrown some picks that he shouldn't have. He was flawless in this game. And yeah, the game just lived up to the hype that everyone was expecting it to. It was an all-time classic, and just for kind of what we said last episode, like game day in the morning in Eugene, it just kind of builds up from there, and it just built and built and built, and then the game starts and Ohio State goes right down to scores. Oregon punts, and you're like, oh man, this could be rough for the Ducks, and then a couple things happen here and there, and then that last sequence, that last drive for Ohio State was just like all-time college football, and then the ending was sweet for the Ducks, and it was just it was fun to be a part of. I've never, obviously I've been to a ton of games, college football in general, and that one was just like the most stressful, the most exciting, and it was really cool just to be there and experience that.
Yeah, man, how was that kind of last defensive drive? They kicked a field goal to go up by 1, Oregon did. And then how was that energy kind of going in from the kickoff to Ohio State's first play of the last possession?
There was definitely a lot of like, oh man, like they just got to get into field goal position, and it was nervous, but everyone knew, especially in the crowd, like, here's a chance to make a difference. It was loud. And, Ohio State executed. Jeremiah Smith, the receiver, is, arguably one of the better receivers in the country, and he showed why he's so good, especially in that second half. I think Emeka Ibuka is also they both had like 10 catches. But when it came down to close to field goal range, the offensive pass interference, if you want to call it a controversial call, I thought it was – I mean, it's a tough call to make in that position, but I thought it was probably the right call. And then the 12th man on the field type of thing.
That was crazy.
Which now that we're recording this Wednesday, they've already changed that rule. Lanning kind of just uses it in his back pocket, and he puts the 12th guy on there. They waste 5 seconds, and then you're kind of out of field goal range, and Howard had to make a quick play, kind of scrambles around, and immediately as he slides, the ref, everyone's kind of expecting, they'll probably take a look, put one more second. The referees just blow it off, and they run off the field, and everyone else comes on the field. So it was definitely an environment that I had never been a part of for any sporting event, really. It was really cool. It lived up to the expectations for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's going to be – that probably was one of Oregon's greatest wins at Austin Stadium of all time. And now the Ducks are number 2 in the nation, who Boise State lost to by a field goal. And if we're looking at this if we're talking about this Boise State game, Ashton Jeanty had his worst game of the year and
he played terrible. He looked horrible.
He was terrible, man. He had 280-something yards and 2 touchdowns, but he obviously didn't play bad, but from his other stats. But now he's kind of the clear-cut Heisman. I think probably 90% of people agree that he's leading it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why he's not the favorite. And honestly, so much, we can kind of get into this Travis Hunter type thing, but I would honestly argue the biggest guy that's behind him is probably Dylan Gabriel now.
Yeah, he shot his way up.
Yeah, and he was kind of projected up the top, and he's had great statistical games, but he's never had, when you're able to have moments, that's such a big thing with the Heisman, is like the Heisman moment, the Heisman plays in the biggest games, and Gabriel did that. But Jeanty is doing, when people are talking negatively about his game, when he rushes over 200 yards, like that is a Heisman Trophy winner, in my opinion. And I think now that Boise State is not playing the caliber of teams that a lot of people want to see Jeanty play against, they're trying to pick little things about him to tear his stock down, which is just crazy to me. Especially for so long, everyone's wanted the Heisman Trophy not to be this quarterback only award and not to be just this one player. And so I don't know. What are your kind of thoughts on it? I'm kind of dumbfounded at the fact that people are picking apart his performance when he ran for 200 some yards.
Yeah. The thing that, like you said, we're recording this on a Wednesday. Travis Hunter came out today in an interview and said, basically, he's like, yeah, Ashton Jeanty's good, but we see good running backs all the time. Who else is playing both ways? And Travis Hunter's a hell of a player. He's generational talent, and he should be up there in the Heisman. But for him to kind of downplay what Jeanty's doing, you say what you want about Colorado, but I've had enough of them recently. Not gonna lie, and I like Travis Hunter. I thought he was kind of a humble dude, but I don't know.
Yeah, and also this is coming after they lost. Like they're losing games, and he's trying to help his stock for the Heisman. And I get he's trying to keep himself in that race, but just win games. Be ranked. Boise State's the 15th ranked team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's no oh yeah, Ashton Jeanty ran for 250 yards and a loss. Their only loss is to the number 2 team in the country on the road by a last second field goal.
Mm-hmm.
This is not it's not like Boise State's 3-3. Yeah, he's got great stats, but his team, he's not gonna be in the there's a reason we're talking about Boise State. They're a top 15 ranked team in the country. He's doing what he's doing, and I don't understand and I think it really is just trying to get yourself out in the media and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing, even though we lost, here's what I'm doing. I think that's just not, that's not what the Heisman voters are really going to look at. So I don't know.
If you're going for the Boise State hasn't played anybody, when we look at Colorado, yes, they're in the Big 12, but I think I saw something that 3 out of however many, 5 maybe, of Travis Hunter's touchdowns have come against FCS team with North Dakota State, and the other two or whatever have come against Colorado State, who's not great. But I mean, we could talk about this for hours and argue on Twitter against people, but in reality it's two great football players. I think Genty should be deserving of it as of now. But also Travis is a great player as well, but it's just enjoyable, like you said, to watch someone other than two quarterbacks just go at it.
Yeah, no, we could obviously speak on this forever, and I'm kind of in the boat that Genty's the guy to who really deserves it, especially if they continue to win. And I think probably I will guarantee you 95% of average college football fans did not stay up and watch Boise State play Hawaii.
No.
And just looked at the stats and saw, oh, he had whatever, this. Like,
it was still set like 7.2 yards a carry, which is good.
And you know what I did see, which, again, we're going to go for the Genty talk. So we had talked about, I think it was a couple episodes ago, we had kind of mentioned, like, who's going to be the team that stacks the box? Who's going to be the team that just takes it away? In an 8-man box, Ashton Genty averages 8.2 yards a carry. So even when he is given the two linebacker, like all this stuff, like coming barreling at him, 8.2 yards a carry. Like teams are throwing it at him. No one can tackle the guy.
And that's like, I mean, you get 5 linemen, maybe have like 1 or 2 tight ends. That's you're at disadvantage every time. So there's going to be 1 or 2 extra guys, and he's still doing what he's doing.
Yeah, all he's doing, like, there's a free linebacker barreling at him, and if you really watch him, I mean, he rarely gets tackled on the first, initial contact. Like, I think in the Hawaii game, he had like 1 in the first half where he was actually taken down for a loss, and everyone was like, "Oh my God,
yeah,
taken down for a loss." And I'm sure
human.
that guy is gonna clip that and put that to the NFL scouts, the Hawaii offensive line or defensive lineman. So I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like, even when teams are doing that, it's like, it's almost as a defensive coordinator, you just have to go, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And then Maddox Madsen has actually played very consistently. He doesn't really turn it over. And, like, saying game manager is, like, disrespectful in my opinion. But, like, he does exactly what his job is supposed to be. And that's when he needs to make a throw, he can make it. And he's showing more consistency in that. At the beginning of the year, especially in that Oregon game, he didn't. And if he does, if he just continues to improve, like, this is going to be a really, really good team, and a team that not a lot of people are going to want to see, going into the playoff if they continue to win out. So I'm really excited to continue to watch them kind of progress in that area. And defensively, they looked better last weekend. But yeah, I think this Boise State team is becoming an all-around really, really damn good team.
Yeah.
And if you have a tailback like that and can ride him, and he hasn't had that many carries the last couple of weeks. He did against Hawaii, and it just shows, like, when you need him to have 28, 30 carries, he can do that. He can also have 13 and you can shut him down. Like, there's so many opportunities for this team to continue to win, and they've got a big game coming up with UNLV, and then it's just powering through the rest of the year and continue to win.
Yeah, they got to bye this week. UNLV on the 25th, which is a Friday, unfortunately, because it could have been game day if there was nothing else going on. But should we get into this week's games?
Yeah, let's take a look at this week. Obviously, we had talked about it. Like, we're at the point of the year where we're just going to start stacking these weekends of great games, and starting off is always in recent years it's been really good, but the Alabama Crimson Tide, Tennessee, they go to Knoxville. Both teams, like Alabama looked a little shaky last week to South Carolina. Tennessee has not looked great, but this is also one of the games where you go, the best part about college football is, like, the atmospheres, and I know that atmosphere will be insane. But who do you have in that game? Because that'll be fun.
I actually have a buddy going to this game. Shout out Braden, but lucky for him. Tennessee scheduled or circles this game on their calendar every time they play them in Rocky Top. It's probably going to be a checker out. Both teams are kind of struggling, not going to lie. I just don't think Bama's that good. Hot take, but I'm going Tennessee. Give me the Volunteers.
Yeah, I think this one's tough. It's probably I heard a lot of people kind of say, and actually, going back to last week, like when you go to an environment like last week at Autzen Stadium, that was probably I'd give that worth 2 points. That's what a lot of people say. With that being said, Tennessee has not, like Nico, we were really high on. He looks a little lost. And I think Alabama does enough to win the game with Tennessee kind of sputtering right now on offense. So I'll take the Tide on that one.
I like it. Shout out teams.
Shout out Max teams. Okay, next one. 2 decent Big Ten teams. Who knows what we'll see later. Illinois gave up like 49 points to Purdue. Had to win in overtime. But they get Michigan coming into town who doesn't know how to throw a pass.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know which Michigan you're going to get every game. And I don't know what I'm going to get this game. So I'm just going to take the home team. I'm going Illinois.
Yeah, I'm taking the Illini too. Michigan is just an interesting case because it's like they obviously have enough talent to win games and be competitive, but like how as such a great program like that, how do they not know going into the year like our quarterback situation is a mess and they just kind of roll with it? And it's like I don't know. I mean, Illinois' defense kind of scares me, but again, like they are committed to be one-dimensional. So that also kind of scares me. So I'll take Illinois in that one too. Huge game. This one's the biggest of the weekend in my opinion. But Texas versus Georgia in Athens. Or wait, no, it's in Austin. Who you got in that one? 1 versus 5.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this season, this was kind of thought of as the game of the year, one of the games of the year. Obviously, Texas coming off a big win, a blowout against Oklahoma in the Red River shootout last week. But I'm gonna go Georgia this one. I think the Bulldogs are gonna kind of use that home field advantage against Texas, and Texas is riding high, especially after winning the rivalry game. So I'm going Georgia.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Georgia too, and my only reasoning for this is Texas is the only team in the country that we haven't really seen be vulnerable in any way. Like Ohio State obviously loses to Oregon. Oregon hasn't – they're undefeated but had some scares. They haven't looked super consistent. Obviously Alabama has lost to Vandy. Like if Texas loses, this is going to be – I think this just makes it so much better for college football fans because everyone gets to go. There really isn't a – one clear team that's better than the rest. Mm-hmm. So I hope Georgia wins this game and we go into the following week going, anyone could be the best team in the country.
Especially with the playoff, it just makes it even better.
The new playoff, like if there's the whole goal of the 12-team playoff is there's 12 legitimate teams that can win the national title. That's not going to happen every year. There's going to be teams that are far superior. But this could be a huge year for, 12 teams could possibly win the national championship, and they're all in the same playoff playing against each other. So give me the Bulldogs in that one. And then the last one, kind of a surprise team in the Big Ten, undefeated Indiana. They're at home against Nebraska. Who are you rocking with in that one?
Go Hoosiers. I don't got much
Hoosiers.
other than I'm kind of getting annoyed of Dylan Riley. Not gonna lie with the Patrick Mahomes,
Patty
but
Mahomes.
I'm going Hoosiers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the Hoosiers. I'm gonna take. That would be an interesting. I don't think they have to play a lot of the major teams in the conference as well. Like they could sneak their way into into the top, kind of 12 too. So like, give me all that. Another one I want to shout out. We don't have it on here. 2 teams. I want to shout out the troops. Army, Navy, undefeated. Both
first
ranked,
time in
like since the 20s.
yeah. Roger Staubach.
So, give me let me see those teams right. I think Navy plays Notre Dame the following weekend, so that'll be fun. But give me the troops all day.
Support the troops. Let's go.
Well, that's all I got for some college football stuff. But
I mean, basketball season is basically here. We got secret scrimmages going. We got charity exhibitions. We've got things picking up. We got a few games that we kind of seen the scores of, the secret scrimmages. First one, GCU played Baylor with the Drew brothers. And obviously secret scrimmages. Like to explain, secret scrimmages always aren't like just a normal game. Sometimes they'll do like 8-minute halves.
Yeah, let some other guys play a lot of the time,
do work on presses against each other, zones, whatever. So these scores like aren't super reliable, but it is kind of just fun to see how the games go. But GCU obviously thought to be a really good team this year out of the WAC. They made the tournament and they beat St. Mary's last year and almost beat Final Four Bama last year.
Yeah, they are. You know what I found really interesting about GCU is like they really do recruit not just to win the WAC. Like they have legitimate college basketball players on their team.
Grant Foster.
Yeah, like we talked about it a little bit in the interview. Like they are a legitimate case to go undefeated this year. Like they won't really have a whole lot of competition in that league, and that's credit to them. Like they don't recruit guys in their same, tax bracket, if you will say.
Yeah.
Like they have legit college basketball players. So I wasn't really surprised with that score. Obviously,
we didn't say the score yet.
Oh, what? Yeah, what is it?
Baylor won 83-80.
So I mean, that does not really surprise me.
No.
Like honestly, and obviously, in a real game with crowds, like different scenario there and whatever. But that it wasn't a huge shock to see that they're competitive with these major conference, major national title contenders in that.
Yeah. Another one. Also, the AP preseason poll came out. UConn was at 3, which I'm sure they felt disrespected off coming off 2 national champions. But
I could go on a long rant about the AP poll, especially in college basketball.
Well, preseason, like I guarantee you, 50% of those teams aren't going to be. It's
all just so the media nerds can say, "Oh, this team was ranked 4th and now they're unranked." And
it's like Rutgers being ranked, which they do have 2 5-stars coming in, but. I mean, you just don't know. It's just solely based off speculation. But Rhode Island played UConn. It was a televised charity, I think. And it was close for 3 quarters. But UConn eventually won by, 20 or 30. But
you have to kind of take into account, like, it's, October 16th?
Oh, it's still early, yeah.
These teams have not put in a huge playbook yet. They haven't really obviously teams practice over the summer, but you're not doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And
you're right.
So I think that also has a little bit to do with it. It's kind of like it's not really anywhere to explain because it's your real team. It's not like the preseason in the NFL where who are these guys? Like it's your team, but you're not going to put a whole lot of stuff out there. But it is just a good thing to gauge, like, where teams are kind of at.
Yeah.
And the rosters you can kind of take a look at and see in live play, not against each other. And that's kind of what I think a lot of coaches appreciate about it, is they get to see their team play against other people.
Yeah. Final one that was last night, UNC beat Memphis by 7. And we talked more about Memphis coming up. But you just never know what you're gonna get from them either.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
some stuff, like I said, ramping up. We actually are gonna go to our interview with Nick Lorensen, a host and major key part of the Mid Major Madness brand, the Twitter. He's really a college basketball sicko.
Yeah, he's legit.
He previews the whole Mountain West, a few other mid majors and conferences that have chances at getting multi bid for the NCAA tournament. And he's just a really great guy for information. So let's kick it to him.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, today we're with a very special guest. If you are a college basketball fan on Twitter, you definitely know this guy. You might not know him by name, but we are here with Nick Lorensen, big part of the Twitter account Mid Major Madness. Nick, how's it going?
Doing pretty well. I mean, we were just talking about before we came on here, Boise State, one of the greatest of all the mid majors. They've been dominated the last couple years under Leon. It's been awesome. It's just been awesome to see that growth. Like you guys mentioned, half the seats were blocked out. No ever games damn near sold out. You got an ACC team coming to town this year. Mountain West, it's the best it has ever been, and this is going to be the last year with the Mountain West. So hopefully we come out a little bit stronger in the NCAA tournament, pick up a couple more wins, but it's one of the best conferences in the country to watch. I'm going to miss it a ton. But wherever Boise State's at, I'm always a Bronco.
Awesome. Yeah, let's just jump right into Boise and kind of get into this, little, you know, new transfers coming in. Obviously, the old dogs with, Tyson, he's been there doing something very unique in college basketball, staying at a mid-major program for 4 years. What do you kind of make of the Broncos? Likely, I think tomorrow at media day they'll come out with kind of the preseason or the coaches kind of poll for the Mountain West. But Boise State was ranked 45th in Ken Palm. What do you kind of make of the Broncos this year with the new faces along with the old guys that are still in the program?
Yeah, I was shocked they didn't get more love in the AP poll. I'm shocked more people didn't vote for them. There was another thing we mentioned before we hopped on here. Every year you kind of look at them and you're like, how are they going to be better than last year? Because they just keep going up and up and up. But they just continuously keep churning out these awesome rosters. Tyson's obviously back. And I mentioned it last week in a tweet. I mean, you have him and Ashton Jenney at the same time. Like, how lucky are you guys? You have probably two of the biggest names in group of five mid-major basketball. It's just awesome you guys have that. But Alvaro Codinez comes in from San Jose State, knows the Mountain West, has played really well in the Mountain West before. I think that's like an A-plus addition. I think he could have started for a lot of Power Five teams in the country, but for him to come into Boise in a league that he's already dominated, where he was an all-league player, that's just a complete difference maker for them. But Andrew Meadow, maybe he takes a step up this year. I've been a big fan of just watching him in like little sprints. I know you guys have seen him a lot more than I have. Dylan Anderson has a chance to be really good, two-time Gatorade Player of the Year from Arizona. Leon Rice has done a really good job with those kinds of dudes before, kind of helping them take that step up. But there's quite a couple new faces. Omar Stanley obviously comes back. He's going to be on that probably first team all Mountain West list tomorrow. Just a deep team. You have Cardenas. Julian Bowie's a 3-star kid from Pocatello, in-state kid. Hopefully he grows into something strong over the next couple of years. Dom Parolin comes over from Lehigh. He could be a double-double guy in a league where big men are so important. He's that kind of guy where he's really going to play down low, get those rebounds, hopefully put up maybe 12 to 16 points a game. Pearson Carmichael, another two-time player of the year in high school, coming over from Oregon. They'll be a tournament team again. Like I mentioned, I'm just shocked they didn't get more love in the preseason poll in the AP top 25. We've seen it with the Mountain West the last couple of years. Teams just like funnel in and out of the top 25. But if there's a team like maybe a San Diego State has the last couple of years to just stay up there, San Diego State will probably be up there again this year. Boise State has all the makings to be a consistent top 25 team this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I just kind of wanted to get your opinion or just your thoughts on. Obviously, we saw your tweets last year, but kind of what went down on Selection Sunday last year regarding the Mountain West. And I mean, it came to a shock to us, but I know it came to a shock to a lot of people, especially a lot of Mountain West fans, people on the team. So, how do you, or what goes into that, or why do you think that selection of how the Mountain West was maybe disrespected? How do you think that kind of played out?
Yeah, I feel like it's consistently disrespected. But I was really against it for a while, but it somewhat makes sense these last couple years. Outside of San Diego State, they've been really the only team in the league to produce an NCAA tournament. If you want to count Colorado State's win against Virginia, that ugly first four game, you
Yeah, we
can. But
saw that one. I don't think Virginia belonged. We were
Yeah, that
all
was
saying, I wish we could have played those guys. They
yeah.
couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. I
Yeah.
mean, it was bad, but yeah,
it
anyway.
was like an hour of real time where they didn't score a point. Just absolutely ridiculous. But good for Colorado State. Nico Medved won a game there. But San Diego State's just the only team that's been winning an NCAA tournament. I thought a team like New Mexico should have not been an 11 seed. They didn't maybe play up to their highest expectations all year, but when it came to March, they looked amazing in the conference tournament. I thought they were going to make a run to maybe the Elite Eight, but they played a Clemson team that just got hot at the right time, and they really came to their form like they were in late November and December. But it makes sense. And hopefully we see a team maybe push to get a 5 seed again outside of a San Diego State, because as I've mentioned a couple of times, the Mountain West is going to be a completely different landscape next year. You guys going to the Pac-12, half the league going to the Pac-12. It's going to be a completely different beast. Not a completely different beast, but a completely different dog, because a lot more people are going to be sleeping on the Mountain West in the future without teams like Boise State, Colorado State, all the big time schools in the league, Fresno State, if you want to add them as a big time dog.
Yeah, what do you kind of make of obviously the realignment is just the name of the game in this day and era in college athletics, but what do you kind of make of that new league where you're kind of pairing these middle of the road Pac-12, maybe lesser with Washington State and Oregon State with, I think, really great programs. And I don't know if, adding Gonzaga is, interesting and you can throw that in there. But what do you kind of make of that league? And it's kind of a interesting pairing with all those teams, but it is geographical, which is different. Obviously not the mid-major level, but for high level programs that are trying to kind of make it more consistently in the NCAA tournament. What do you make of that league going forward as of next year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really playing it out too. No offense to Boise State, but before a couple years ago, it's not like they were a powerhouse program. Colorado State goes in waves. Fresno State has been pretty bad at basketball the last couple of years. San Diego State's consistently up there. Gonzaga's consistently up there. Washington State and Oregon State are no powerhouses in basketball at the moment either. They don't get an automatic bid to no one really gets an automatic bid to the playoff, but they're not going to be one of those leagues that consistently gets an automatic bid to the playoff. So it's really going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be one of those leagues where I'm going to have to play out. There's a lot of Mountain West people that don't want to be called a mid-major, and it starts at the league level. The league doesn't want to be called a mid-major. But when you have these inconsistencies so often and not a top of the league where it's consistently dominating and going to be ranked in the top 25. I know they've done that the last 4 years. It's kind of hard to determine if it's a high major conference or a mid major conference. It's kind of like the American was for a long time. I kind of thought you had your Power Six conferences in basketball. So the Power Five plus Big East, the American, and then the mid majors and low majors. I think that's what the Pac-12 could be. Gonzaga will consistently be a high major program because they spend that money and they play all these big teams in big time arenas and sell them out. But if we go into year one and you have San Diego State, Gonzaga, Washington, Boise, Colorado State all making the NCAA tournament, you could make a legitimate argument that it's a high major conference. It's just that who knows like what the TV deal is. There's a lot of things that really play into it, but there's a chance if Boise State continues what they're doing, Colorado State continues what they're doing, you could have a legitimate basketball league there with a really, really strong top five. And if Washington State can continue or if David Riley could continue what he did at Eastern Washington, bring it over to Washington State and have them as a real good program, you have 6 awesome basketball programs there. Oregon State picks up a good up and coming head coach. You got a really good basketball league that could be considered a high major conference. It's just I got to play it out a little bit. I've
No,
been
I,
I've been
I
on the fence. It's been tough.
I totally and I know they've attempted, and I think they lowballed them, but they've attempted the Memphis route. I don't know the deal with that, and before this even happened, we all saw like the Pac-12 and the ACC made this alliance, and then that blew up 3 weeks later. So like, who knows? But if you add Memphis to that mix, that's probably a pretty big basketball league. And all of a sudden, I think a football-based decision is what happens in college sports. It's the biggest revenue sport, but all of a sudden you're adding if you add a Memphis, I mean that's a huge conference for hoops on especially on the West Coast, adding Memphis to come by. Um, but I thought that was interesting. But obviously, we have bunch of Boise State kind of followers right now. But who are your other kind of Mountain West players to watch going forward this year? I know New Mexico has a lot of great players and great guard play, and San Diego State has a couple good transfer, and who do you kind of is on your radar in this league going into this year?
Yeah, Nick Clifford returns in that front court for Colorado State. We've mentioned a couple times they'll consistently be up there with Nico Medved. They're a good program. They have him, and then they have Bowen Bourne coming in from Northern Iowa. He's been a really good guard in the Missouri Valley the last couple of years. He could light it up. He could probably average 12 to 14 points and be that strong, steady hand they need in that backcourt. I think Fresno State could be a little bit better than they have been the last couple of years. There's really not a player that will shine there. I thought Nevada was going to be really good last year. They were pretty good. They were a 10 seed. They ended up losing to Dayton in that NCAA tournament game and kind of choking it there.
Yeah.
But, they bring back Foster. They bring back Rawlson. Kobe Sanders comes over from Cal Poly. I think he's another transfer that he could average like 20 points. He was doing it at Cal Poly, but he was just super inefficient. Hopefully he gets those numbers up, those percentages up a little bit. And he's that really good guard that Nevada needs. Trey Coleman returns in that front court. Uh, Brandon Love comes over from Texas State. Really good defensive program, but he averaged 10.5 points per game and shot really good from the field. They bring over a Japanese kid from Portland, University of Portland, Yuta Watanabe. No, Yuta. I don't remember his last name, but Yuta. 8.6 points, 5.2 rebounds per game. He should be decent. New Mexico brings back Donovan Dent. They did lose Jamal Mashburn to the transfer portal. He's at Temple now, but Donovan Dent has a chance to be even better than he has been the last couple of years and get that up to maybe 16, 18 points per game. CJ Nolan will be in that backcourt with him from North Texas. He's been really good. Another really strong defensive program, but he's led them the last couple of years offensively. So he should be great. Mustafa Amzil comes back. We know what he's about. He can shoot the three ball a little bit, but he struggled last year doing it. If he gets those percentages up, that could be really deadly. Nelly Jr. Joseph comes over from Iona. He might have been somewhere else last year, but he was at Iona initially.
He was over there. He was at New Mexico last year.
Was
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was great last year. 8.9 points, 8.2 rebounds per game. Atiki Elliott Atiki, who is a kid who probably could have went to many high major programs, got a really big bag, ended up going to New Mexico, BYU kid. Just his potential's out of the roof. San Diego State obviously will be up there. Reese Waters returns. I really like their freshman Tasha Gorville. I know people are higher on other freshmen on that team, but I think he's really good. I think he could end up starting at the 3 for them. Jared Coleman Jones is a kid who comes over from Middle Tennessee. I didn't watch much of Middle Tennessee last year, but when I started doing my previews, I was watching him, and he's just insane in the post. He's going to be absolutely unstoppable. And that's something that they do a really good job at. They kind of get these under the radar big men from the higher mid major conferences, and they come over there and they just absolutely dominate an awesome program. Uh, San Jose State should be good. Josh Duje comes over from Utah State, kid in league who's played well before. Day Hall comes over from Stephen F. Austin, always been a fan of his. People are super high on UNLV. I think maybe they take a step down this year. It's just a program that consistently has their inconsistencies. So I'm not all too sure about them, but they have some good guys returning and coming in. Dedon Thomas was awesome for them last year, 13.5 points per game, 5 assists. Utah State should be really good. Shout out Dayton Albury, who was at Queens with me last year. Fast guard, going to be downhill, going to bring it to the hoop. He'll be awesome. Jared Calhoun brought in a whole bunch of ASUN guys. I think there might be a couple of injuries over there. So who knows what happens, but they'll consistently be a top program. Ian Martinez comes back. Mason Falsov comes back. Just a great program. And Wyoming should be really interesting too. Sonny Wicks is a winner. He brings the juice. He has Jordan Nesbitt, who's a hothead and he'll get in people's grills and he'll be putting up 18 points a game and just he'll be yapping his mouth off. He'll be getting into a couple fights probably this year. But it's always a great league. So many players to look forward to, super competitive. Being on the East Coast, it's awesome. 11 o'clock. But this is the last real go around we have of it. So we really got to savor the months of January and February where these teams are facing off for potentially the last time.
Yeah, that's what one of the things that obviously as a fan you'll miss. Maybe as a coach or a player you won't, but like as a fan, I want to see the best teams have to go to Laramie and win in mid-February when that place, when they get some scrappy guys that are playing, like you do not want to go there. You don't want to play at Utah State. Like that place gets rocking. Um, and the last thing you want to do is go into those games and not feel comfortable with your team or doubt what you can do because they will take advantage, and the crowd will let you have it. Tough places to play. That's what I think as a fan I'll miss the most is just you never know. Like even at the bottom of the league, supposedly the bottom of the league where teams may not be to the caliber of the top, but some of those places where you have to go is not an easy place, not easy places to play.
Yeah, I mean even Air Force. Air Force
Yeah,
isn't
yeah, Air Force
an
too.
easy place to play.
Air Force is one of those places where it's like you got to be comfortable not having a crowd. Like, can you get up for a game? That's a real test there. It's a unique venue, but cool.
Yeah, and kind of talking about more about you. I guess people would say are a college basketball sicko. Uh, I remember like kind of during the season scrolling through Twitter, and all of a sudden I see a tweet from either you or Mid Major Madness account, and you got five TVs going, a Summer League game going here, the ESPN game, a Big Sky. Just how did you just fall in love with college basketball?
Yeah, so my grandfather was the admissions director at Duquesne. So growing up, that was really like when I was a Steeler fan, I was a Pirate fan, and then I was a Duquesne basketball fan. So I fell in love with Duquesne basketball, and in middle school, I started creating these Instagram accounts. Uh, and it kind of blew up. And this guy's like, you should make a team center account. So I made one for UMBC. I made one for Duquesne. And the UMBC one blew up when they beat Virginia. The Duquesne one didn't last long, but the UMBC one blew up when they beat Virginia. It got tagged by like ESPN, Fortnite, USA Today, all these big accounts. And, I just continued doing it. I started writing for Mid-Major Madness. I believe I was a junior in high school. I was working at UMBC. And then sophomore year of college, the guy that ran the account before me was about at 20,000 followers, went to go work for Kevin Durant at Boardroom.
Wow.
It opened up. I'm like, hey, can I start using it? And ever since then, it's just continued to grow. And I thought going into college, maybe I'd want to be a sports information director. I always liked, following a team, stats and all that. But I started making connections with coaches, and I've always wanted to teach. I've always wanted to recruit people to go to schools. So I've been parlaying that into becoming a coach. I'm a grad assistant at LaSalle. I was at Queens last year as an intern basketball coach. But yeah, it's been awesome. I'm learning every day. I'm with Fran Dunphy, who's one of the greatest basketball coaches we have around right now. Yeah, he's 600 plus winner, 600 plus game winner. Uh, might be a Hall of Famer when all is said and done. But it's just the smaller schools really attract me because it's communities that care, communities that maybe people really wouldn't go towards. No offense, but Boise doesn't really pop up on many people's radars but when they started winning in football, everyone knows who they are now. Every single year they're in the NCAA tournament. They know who you guys are. And that's just awesome. I'm not a guy to root for the big dog. I love rooting for David against Goliath. I was going to say Goliath, but I love rooting for David against Goliath. It's just I love the underdog story. I love the underdog story. I love basketball. I love the variety. There's 270 plus schools you can watch on any given night, so many different styles of basketball, so many different storylines. It's never a dull moment because there's just so much going on as compared. I love the NFL. I love MLB. that's only 30 teams, 32 teams. Everyone's worried about it. I like digging into the ground and getting dirty down there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
there's so much to learn, and yeah, so many, like you said, so many teams, and you go to these, for us, like, you know, yeah, not a lot of people may know about Boise State basketball, but if you talk about the team that won the WAC in 2008, went to the NCAA tournament, there's fans who know every single guy on that team, and those guys don't have to buy a beer anywhere in the city of Boise. Like, that kind of thing is what makes college sports in general special, and why I always love it too. It's definitely like a community aspect that doesn't always happen within the pro sports, and especially towns that, I mean, most towns that have these great college programs don't have pro sports. And a place like Boise, like, the basketball is at the university, and that's where people go on a Saturday night to watch basketball in this winter. So it's definitely that's the uniqueness of college basketball for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is kind of outside of the Mountain West and kind of focusing on the whole country. Who do you see or who do you predict to maybe have multi-bid conferences this year in terms of the mid-majors? I mean, obviously, kind of the ones you'd expect, maybe Mountain West. I know there's some good teams in the A10 this year. Obviously WCC, but who do you think?
Yeah, obviously you have the WCC, you got Gonzaga and St. Mary's here consistently up there. I think Santa Clara could have a legitimate chance to make the NCAA tournament this year. They have a really strong backcourt. They have a kid actually. He was at the portal, went high major, now he's back. I think they should be really good. San Francisco could even flirt a little bit there for an at-large bid. The A10, as you mentioned, Dayton's consistently in the NCAA tournament. I think St. Louis will be really good this year. VCU was a preseason favorite. You have a Loyola team who won 25 plus games last year. You have a St. Joe's team who many people are high on. I feel a little bit different being at LaSalle, but that should be a good league. Uh, little if you dig a little bit, maybe the WAC, you have a Grand Canyon team that could go darn near undefeated. If they end up doing that and losing the title in NCAA tournament or in the WAC tournament, why not get two bids? They deserved it. I mean, they have a really strong team and return players. They have a potential All-American on that team returning. You have High Point in the Big South. If High Point ends up losing in the title game, they have a super, like, Grand Canyon actually challenges themselves in the non-conference. High Point really plays absolutely no one. Their hardest games like UAB. So there's a legitimate chance they could win 30, 31, 32 games. And if they lose in the Big South tournament like they did last year, there's a chance that could be a multi-bid league. Arkansas State's another one in the Sun Belt. That's a much more competitive league, a much better league than probably both of those. But they return their backcourt, two really strong front court pieces, and then they have a kid transferring over from Louisiana Lafayette into their program, an in-league transfer who was a first-team all-league player. There's a good chance that they could win 26, 27, 28 games. And if they do super strong, maybe lose one game in conference play, and then once again lose in the conference title game, you could have a multi-bid league there with maybe a James Madison or a Southern Mississippi. But those are the five leagues I would really put on my radar right now. Grand Canyon and High Point are going to be absolutely unstoppable this year. They have all that money from donors and they're
Mhm.
big Catholic schools, so they have people feeding into them. So watch out for those two schools. Watch out for those three leagues or those three other leagues. I think it's gonna be an interesting year in college basketball. No mid majors were ranked in the top 25, but I would be shocked, including the Mountain West, if by the end of the year, last poll before the NCAA tournament, there isn't four teams, and I think Grand Canyon and High Point could be two of those teams.
Going back to kind of this, obviously you know, disrespect towards the Mountain West by the committee. Do you think that the kind of, the underperformance of the last couple years, other than San Diego State, do you think they take that into account going into this year? And maybe we see one or two teams not make the tournament that a lot of people think, like, obviously Boise State and Colorado State go to Dayton last year. Do you think those teams going into this year, like, is there going to be a more of a cap on the Mountain West, even if it is the same type of league with six deep, seven deep teams or seven deep, into the tournament? Do you think there's a cap that the committee is going to think about a little more going into this year?
I hope not. And the cool thing about the Mountain West is everyone challenges themselves in non-conference. You have leagues like the WCC or even the A10 where it's tough to schedule. No one wants to schedule these teams, but the Mountain West does a good job going out of the way and getting these multi-team events and adding them with high major programs or getting home and homes like Boise State did with Clemson. So it all really comes down to the non-conference. I don't think if the Mountain West has the last couple of years they've had what 6, 7, 8 teams in the net top 50. If they have that again, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't include all those teams in the NCAA tournament. But also, as you said, they've shown time and time again that they've kind of struggled. I don't think they'd put that in account. I hope they wouldn't put that in an account. We got, like I said, we got to savor it. It's our last real year with the Mountain West. If anything, I hope they kind of show the respect and maybe add a team that is on the fringe bubble there.
Yeah. I This is my hot take, but I mean it's not really a hot take, but it's almost like we should have guys like you who watch almost every single team as the committee, even though metrics do matter a little bit. But I guarantee you these committee members aren't staying up till 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night watching either West Coast basketball. Like I mean, I do like some of the bracketologists and all that, but it almost seems like we should change the system a little bit. But
Especially in like December. Their whole thing is the last 2 weeks of February they'll start watching and then they complain like, "Oh, I was up all night watching basketball. Suck it up." I
Yeah,
do that
it's
for
your job,
6 months
man.
and I love it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
your
how
job.
brutal of a job is that?
exactly.
Yeah, no, yeah, just I was just kind of interested to see, what people kind of thought of going forward. I know, like we kind of said, like the committee, they probably did watch February in the Mountain West, and they didn't take into account of I don't think they took into account that Boise State beat St. Mary's in early December of last year and like, you know, that kind of stuff and then peaked. And so I think different teams, should be, if you're going to schedule tough games, you should be rewarded. And then I think a lot of Mountain West teams felt like they weren't rewarded for actually going out of their way and trying to get games that frankly, a lot of teams don't want to play. The New Mexicos, San Diego States, they've been able to schedule a lot, but like, you know, as Boise State, we don't get a lot of teams to come to Boise and play. Um, and you also have to win all those games, to kind of put them on the radar. But yeah, I'm just interested to see how this kind of goes this year. And like you said, maybe they do show some respect for the dying Mountain West, the inevitable death of the great conference that we love. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense why they'd much rather see a Pitt team who beat up on the Citadel and Green Bay in non-conference and then won maybe 2/3 of their game in a bad ACC. I hate it.
yeah,
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I have one more. Do you have anything
no,
else?
yeah, go ahead.
I have one more thing before we say goodbye. Explain why Memphis fans hate you.
Because they want to be a high major program. It makes absolutely no sense. They haven't done anything since 2008. Derrick Rose isn't there anymore. John Calipari isn't there anymore. They're consistently finishing like third, fourth, fifth place in the American. Not a stellar league. They're not kicking any ass. Come on, be real here.
Yeah.
I
I
know
know.
you play in an NBA arena and you sell it out, but you also have like Portland State who plays in a pseudo NBA arena. Come
Yeah,
on.
I know.
I love it.
I see you all the time on there beefing with Memphis fans. I just laugh and like they could be so good every year. They just constantly disappoint everybody.
Mhm.
So
They have all the talent in the world. I
yeah,
was watching them, what was the last night against UNC, and they looked pretty good. You just know that they'll end up losing to like UTSA in January, and the sky is falling as they go from the eighth ranked team of the country in December, all the way to not even making the NCAA tournament. It's like it's a tale as old as time.
yep.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. That was great info, and look forward to this season coming up, man. I'm really excited, and I'm sure everyone is, and it's going to be a really great year of college hoops.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'm always down to talk some Boise State hoops, mid-major hoops. Love
Yeah,
it.
awesome.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. If you don't follow Mid Major Madness already, go ahead and follow them. Follow Nick on Twitter. We're excited for this year, and it's going to be a great college basketball season. Yeah, that was a great interview. We really appreciate Nick joining us. I mean, it's good to finally meet him after seeing all his activity on Twitter and just getting kind of hear what he has to say.
Yeah, we obviously are some of his key followers being, at Boise State. He's a great guy to, he's one of the unique guys that, especially if you're a Mountain West basketball fan, like make sure to give him a follow because he's not a guy that's going to, go to bed at halftime of a game on the West Coast. Like he's legit. He's going to, he understands the league very well and like he kind of said in the interview, like truly enjoys watching the Mountain West and college basketball and the underdog. I really liked what he said about that. It was pretty cool. So yeah, fun interview with him.
Our first guest.
Yeah, first guest. It went well. I hope so.
Yeah. Speaking of first our guest, we're gonna have a really special guest on next week. Make sure you come back for that. Anything else?
No, yeah. Awesome. Again, I've said this like every show, but we're just kind of inching closer, and it feels a little real now that college hoops is coming up, and media days are kind of going on and that kind of thing. So super exciting. Yeah, I'm just pumped again.
All right, thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in next week. See you later.